Welcome back to Wook Plus. I am the Great Wen, joined by Michael Weiss. Michael has been called the sixth member of God Street Wine, helping guide the band through their 90s rise while wearing nearly every backstage stupid hat. After being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2004, he turned that same energy toward advocacy, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now serving as Executive Director of MS4MS. I wish there was some way to say that as an acronym like OPEC or something like that. But we'll have to work on that. How are we doing today, Michael?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing, Kev?
I'm fantastic. Very excited for this. I met you for like a half a second at the Atlanta show back then. And my God Street story is there was this guy I knew named Rob Little. I used to call him Red Leo because he was a little bit of redneck and he was a little bit Leonardo DiCaprio. And my man got skin cancer, beat it, and got brain cancer. But he was the one who turned me on. Every time I went to see him, he threw in an extra tape with the trade, always God Street Wine. And then he's like, you got to come to the Bayou with me. So there I am at the Bayou, the 8x10, the early days. You were there almost every night.
Yeah, those were great venues. I used to love our trips down to Baltimore and DC, and the Bayou was the location of our OJ chase night.
There you go. I was in Colorado at the time, working at the at a place called the Sink, and we were watching the Knicks game.
Yeah,
they interrupted it. They completely took off the Knicks game to show this noodlehead driving down the road at 10 miles an hour. Did they do anything special? Did they like mention it during the show?
I don't remember. I don't think it was. That's a good question. I'd have to go and see if I can find a tape of that because I don't remember if it was mentioned from the stage. I do remember trying to watch the Knicks game though on this tiny little TV, and then having it preempted. Yeah.
What are you guys doing to us? Oh, became the best thing ever, I guess, for Court Television or whoever it was there.
It was like the kickoff, right, of Court TV, and then even thinking about all of this 24-hour cable news stuff, like that was a big push.
It was that, and in the first Clinton election. I remember watching headline news half hour over half hour and being like, the weed isn't getting any better. What's going on?
Yeah, really, that's a good point. I remember watching Wolf, during the first Gulf War.
So how did it happen? I mean, obviously you were a fan in the first place. And then what did you say? Hey, let me take over for you. I'm going to get you to the next level.
I was a fan thanks to my buddy Ed Loram, who I went to college with. Ed grew up in Ridgewood, New Jersey. Grew up with Aaron, and when I got to school we went to college down in Delaware at Wesley College in Dover, Delaware, and in summer '89 he had been telling me about this band and this kid he grew up with as a guitar player, and in the summer '89 I went to see God Street in his backyard up in Ridgewood, New Jersey, and that was the first time I saw them and met them. And then for the next couple of years, if Ed and I and other folks weren't out, doing Dead Tour, leaving our stuff at college and going on Dead Tour, we were taking trips up to the city to go catch God Street whenever we could. It was, back then they were doing, 20 nights a month in New York City.
They owned New York City back then.
It was a different time. Like all those bands, those guys and the Spin Doctors and Blues Traveler and Authority and the Hatters, it was that time when you can play 20 shows in the same zip code and people would still come.
Exactly. Well, I mean, Nightingales, I've always wanted to do. I know people have run Nightingales into the ground, but I think there's an incredible documentary in there. And a lot of those people are still around. And how many years do you have till they're not around? You look at Phil passing and, things. The history disappears. It ends there,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the guy, Tom Hosier, who was the guy at the door who booked all the bands and managed the room and collected the money at the door. He gave God Street their first shot at a proper gig and sang with a lot of the bands that came through that room and then launched out to Wetlands and out they ended up. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a definite documentary that can take place there.
Yeah, I'm Jono Manson. I talked to him once, and he was I talked to him a couple times, but one time he was talking about the stage in that place, and he's like, it was the worst stage ever.
I mean, it was like 3 inches off the ground, and the back wall was all glass. It was all mirrors in the back wall. And Jono, geez, I mean, Jono was like, really, that documentary should start with Jono. He was, I mean, to me, he's the godfather of that whole scene.
He is fantastic. So fun to talk to too. He has a great studio out in, where is he? Santa Fe?
I guess,
like that. Yeah, and he does like live streams from there. I would love to hook up with him about that. I need to call that guy. Give him a call. So let me ask you this. When I'm listening to them now, they're doing 5 shows. They're going to do 10 shows this year. And they're doing like, the sea, and, they're doing all these songs that you don't really expect them to do. And they're these beautiful soundscapes. And it's almost like they didn't miss a beat, but they're a completely different band that is playing an idealized version of God Street Wine.
That's a great summary. I mean, I agree, and it was wild when they first got back together in 2009 after Paul Ducharme passed away, and they did the sort of double decker memorial to him, one in the afternoon for sort of family friendly, and then the old school kind of basement throwdown at night. I mean, they hadn't rehearsed, they hadn't seen each other in Lord knows how long, and they all just picked up their instruments, and it sounded like it had sounded the last time I saw them when they were playing forever. And it was, every time I see them, every time they get together for rehearsal or for these little runs, it blows me away, the chemistry and sort of how quickly they just lock in and pick it all up. And then to your second point, I agree. I mean, it feels like, I mean, they've all matured as musicians. They've all, I guess, matured as how they take in the inspiration from Lowe or Aaron, whoever wrote the song, or Bevo, and then translate it to the stage. And it's agreed. It's an improved, polished, more mature God Street Wine.
It is. I'm loving it. I'm so excited. I'm going to try to get to Ashbury Park. Somebody said maybe there'd be something extra special there when I talked to him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, working on some stuff for sure. Yeah, Matt, that's the man. It's been so fun working with him over the last 15 years, which is amazing that, I mean, this band has now been, sporadically 5 shows here, 10 shows there, but playing together as a
longer
for 15 years, and it was far surpassing the original God Street Wine in longevity.
Right. When you look, can we talk a little bit about big record labels?
Sure.
Okay, you got the deal. You guys got the deal. You got the, you were like poised to be the next whatever Spin Doctors. I guess the vultures in the record industry were looking at you like they got a hit single in them. They got a million seller in them, kind of thing. And you guys took it and you went there, and I guess you quickly learned it was not maybe your thing.
Yeah, gosh, all the memories are pretty fuzzy. But I will say, I mean, at that time, we had, proper representation, proper outside of just me. Right. And before me, the guy I told you, Ed Loram, he had been managing the band prior to me coming in and working with them. And, during the first year or so that I was with them, one of the things we were talking about was finding, proper representation, somebody who knew the ins and outs of the industry and can kind of navigate those waters. And we found Scott Riley, Bullethead. And so at that time, Bullethead was, was helping steer the ship and certainly a big part of getting the deal done and getting us in front of people. And I think, I don't know. I think they thought there was a hit. And I personally still think there probably could have been a hit. I don't know that I think depending on who you ask, you'll hear a different story, but I think a similar theme in that, you know, as an organization, we may have made some bad decisions on like who, you know, again, nothing against, you know, the people that I'll mention, but like, you know, was Dickinson the right guy to produce $1.99 romances? He is amazing. He is a legend, and he does, but you know, did he know what to do with a bouncy jam band from the Northeast? I don't know, you know, and I think you probably heard the story from Lowe, or I think it's on the documentary about, you know, the label was pushing, I think it was T-Bone Burnett. They wanted to produce $1.99 because Counting Crows, you know, and similar sort of, you know, vibe or whatever. And I think there was a little bit of like, well, you know, we don't want the record company telling us what to do. We're going to go with this guy, you know, and maybe that was the wrong decision. You know, so yeah, it's just that kind of stuff happens.
Good for them. Let me ask you this: if you could have picked somebody back then, thinking about the big names, I mean, I could. You know who I would have loved to see is somebody like Mutt Lange, who did rock and roll, who probably would have sharpened the edges a little bit, maybe on some of that, and that might have been what made the MTV breakthrough, because it was MTV still then. You were trying to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and like you said before, like we signed the deal, and at that point, that was you know, that was a goal. Like and I think as a young band, you think like we signed the deal, we did it, we're done, it's it, like we made it, and you know, and the reality is like that's just allowing you to sort of get up to the plate at that point.
Right, and, you're above water. You're finally have your head above water. At that
yeah, and going to your other, I don't know. I think there's so many people who could have produced it, and I agree with you, because like, you know, you look at like a big rock and roll producer and what they could have done with something like Stonehouse, you know, like I think there's a lot of different paths and angles that could have been taken.
Molly should have been a huge song because it had the half rap. I mean, G Love was mining that same kind of thing at the time, you know.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I agree. I think that album, I think a lot of their albums, I think, you know, and again, it was sort of a ongoing, you know,
this guy,
wrong place, right time.
This guy is fantastic.
Yeah. I love that album. There's some, you know, again, like modern technology, right?
Maturity. It's the maturity they found over the years.
The maturity, I think, you know, interesting, like recording it the way they recorded it remotely, which I don't know. I actually would love to hear that album recorded with them all in the same room.
Right.
You know,
as a run through the whole album, just get a studio. Let's call Alan Evans up or somebody. He's up there in Connecticut somewhere. Get him in there for an afternoon. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely talking about ways to get them together in a studio. Because I mean, you know, and you're right. I mean, there's so many
new songs. Well, I mean, the album only had the Aaron song on it. But they released 2 singles.
Yep.
The one, I guess we're never going to hear, the Low single about Christy, because it's very niche and they aren't going to go and bust that out. Maybe as an encore one night when everything is just going the right way. But the other tune, the latest one they released,
it's a great tune. Yeah, it's like it's got that old GSW vibe to it. It's got that old GSW, like you can, like, it reminds me of when I first heard them and I was like, oh, these guys are definitely influenced by the Talking Heads. And then I hear this and it's like, I keep saying to your point, but to your earlier point, it's this matured version of the early GSW, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's simply fantastic. I love
I was really hoping though that South Park picked up the phone and, like, you know, gave us a call with that Christy song. Like, I mean, you know,
right? You had to get Les Claypool to come and do the vocal. that would be your in with them. So 2009, we mentioned earlier, is when they got back together. Then 2010, they reunited for something else.
Yeah, well, in 2009 with the Memorials for Paul. they had such a great time being back in a room together and playing together and just spending time together, that it was quickly after that, shortly after that, that the talks about playing more shows and doing like a proper gig came up. And the second that came up, I brought up the idea of doing it as a benefit for raising money for MS research and awareness. And the guys all, like, split second, all were right on board and happy to do it. And again, it was, we did those 2 shows at the Gramercy that sold out real quick, and then did the next weekend 2 nights at Irving. Raised a ton of money for the MS groups through those shows, and most importantly, really, like, it solidified with the guys that they loved playing as a band, and was the launching point for everything after that. Which, again, like, if you had told me in 1992 that the band was going to break up, and then 10 or so years later they're going to get back together, and then they're going to play with Phil, and then they're going to play with Bobby, and then they're going to be like, I would have been like, come on,
If it's happening, it's happening now, right?
But really, when they were so willing to get on board with raising money for MS research and awareness, and the connection to that being that I was diagnosed, as you mentioned in the intro, to MS in 2004. Again, not only did those shows solidify their interest as playing together as a band, but it solidified sort of what I always knew about them and felt through them as, like, people and family, and just the support that came from them, and that it was real nice.
Right. So what was it like? What was that moment like?
Those shows, that first show at Gramercy was really surreal. I mean, it was the most energy I've felt at a God Street show through all the shows I saw and worked and did in the 90s. I mean, to come out, see them come out on stage, have the entire place full, going nuts, and then I forget if it was the first night or the second night, but it was the first time when they played "Waiting for the Tide," and Lowe was soloing, and the whole crowd started singing the whoa, 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 and it was just like, oh my God, like, it felt like some justification, and you felt a little justified for, like, all the work that had been put in back in the day. Like, all right, there are people out there that really, really dig this, and that, that music was the soundtrack for a lot of people's formative years, and you felt that through those shows.
Right. I have a girlfriend that I associate with the band. Totally. Mixtapes for her, always had a God Street tune on there. Never the right one, but always had one on there.
It's hard to choose. I mean,
but you don't want to throw Molly on there because they're like, "What are you talking about here, kid?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't be doing that." Tell me a little bit about MS4MS.
Yeah, so MS4MS is a 501c3 sports and entertainment focused nonprofit that raises awareness and money specifically for MS research through our 2 beneficiaries, main beneficiaries, but then we also have a large percentage of our revenue that is set aside specifically to help people living with MS today. So we focus on research and helping out some of the folks in the medical world, especially now since grants and research funding is in such a crazy
we don't believe
place.
in science. We do not.
Yeah, so it's it feels good to be able to at least provide some relief there. But really, the stuff that makes me just juiced about what we do is anything from supporting somebody with rent for a couple of months while they're laid off or their MS is kicked up and they can't work. We've, provide laundry service for people that are unable to do their laundry anymore. We've built ramps for people in their homes. I mean, so it really runs a wide range of support, and it's those are the things that really make me feel like we're doing something good.
Right. You remember the readathon? When I was in elementary school, every year we had the MS readathon. There was a dog. They had some kind of mascot. I want to say it was a dog, but I'm not sure.
Oh, wow. I kind of do remember a readathon. Yeah.
I would do 100 books for it because I was like, this is cool. I'm getting but it was cool for me because I get my granddad to say he'd give me 10 cents a book, and I'd be like, what can I milk him for?
Well, that's funny. I mean, it's grown so nicely though, and it's when I first started working with MS4MS, I met these guys online. Like I saw them doing stuff on Facebook, and small little organization. This guy Sam Greenberg founded it, and he's the founder and CEO. His grandmother had MS, and so he started this organization as he was graduating college as a tribute to her. He played college baseball, and his original idea after he graduated college and was going to go into the real world, wanted to go see a baseball game in every major league stadium. I don't think he ever got around to doing that, but when he was thinking it through, he thought, well, I may as well also have something attached to this that makes it worthwhile. Right. And so MS4MS stands for Mission Stadiums for Multiple Sclerosis. And that's where he got the idea to start raising awareness at baseball stadiums. And so when I met them, they were 100% sports focused. And so when I started working with them and raising money for them, I let them know that you're missing out on a large audience in the entertainment world, and think we can really up the game a little bit by bringing them in. And so we changed the mission statement and have had multiple.
So it became music sports for MS.
Yeah, maybe I like that. That's a we never. I've actually can't believe, and I'm ashamed that I never thought of that. I'm gonna have to pitch that to Sam though.
All right, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. I had a girlfriend in high school whose older sister had MS, and sometimes you'd go over and she'd be on the couch for a couple weeks at a time. She just couldn't get up and do it. What resources could you throw out to someone if they're dealing with this for the first time? And then also, where am I going to find more out about this and donate money or buy the t-shirt, whatever it is that you guys, do to raise the money?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think, I send people to organizations that are not my own when it comes to resources. And I do that for a couple of reasons. I think there are a lot of different multiple sclerosis organizations out there, and each of them have their niche. I kind of feel like, the granddaddy of them all is the MS Society, and they're a huge organization. They do great work. What I've found through the MS Society and the MS Association of America is that's where I send people for resources. Okay. I think when you're diagnosed with anything, any chronic disease, but you go on, the first thing most people do is go online and scare the crap out of themselves.
WebMD. Let's go to WebMD.
Yeah, and you can find, really scary, and you can find really misinformed, unreliable information. And so I point people to the MS Society or MS Association because I know that information has been vetted. I know that it's science-based. I know that it's a really solid place to start. I always, for myself, I always kind of likened it to, learning how to play music or be like a jazz musician. Like, you want to learn the legitimate theory before you go into that stuff, and then forget it to go out into the ozone and find your own path and find your complementary and alternative treatments. And so I point people to those places. As far as what we do, again, we are supporting research and we're supporting individuals living with MS. We don't get involved too much on the information and resource side because it's already out there. And so for us, the easiest way to get involved with us is really to go to ms4ms.org. And you can read about the organization. You can see some of the highlights of the events that we do. You can see stories and highlights of the people that we help. And then, to your point, you can donate directly to the organization through the website. We also
that's what we want. Ultimately, that's what we want is, if you have it, I realize this is not the best world to live in right now. When it comes, last week it was $1.50. This week it's $1.80. You're like, what happened? There's your $30. That's a challenge, right? I mean,
yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And Yeah, it's absolutely true. And trying to find the people that are willing to kick in and donate and understand the importance of, again, talking about how there are different levels and different organizations that do different things. We donate primarily to Johns Hopkins MS Research Center and UCLA Health
Baltimore.
MS. Yeah, Baltimore. That's big. One of the lead researchers in at Johns Hopkins is on our advisory board.
Good people down there.
Absolutely great people down there. And again, we're not the MS Society, so we're not donating hundreds of millions of dollars to studies that are going to produce a medication immediately.
Right.
What we're doing is we're providing the seed funding to hospitals that are then able to take their results and then apply for the larger grants from the larger organizations. And so it's an incredibly important part that I think a lot of people don't really understand is needed in the research and development space.
A lot of the grants are going to have to be private now, huh?
Yeah, I mean we've shifted our strategy. I mean we started a grant committee internally and shifted our strategy completely. It's all private foundations and yeah, like I mean I don't know when the time's going to be to navigate the federal grants again.
Man, the tide will turn.
It always does. Yeah, no, it'll turn. It always does. But yeah, so you just
we're old. We know this. We're old. We know. We've seen.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. Although it's funny, and going back to the music piece, being this old, it's wild to have seen what's happened to the music industry, right? Like having been involved with God Street when people still wanted to sell CDs and albums, and people were making we're making FU money from selling albums, which looking at that now is I can't even imagine.
You're never getting another Huey Lewis. Somebody's never going to make that money again. Even at $400 a ticket late. Well, I guess maybe they are. Taylor Swift and Beyonce are a complete other level, though.
Oh, yeah.
But they're screwing the ecosystem. If I pay $400 to go see Taylor Swift, I'm not going to go see 20 other shows that year that are $20.
That's a good point. I mean, I think, that's a good point. And I mean, I think you can, that can go for anybody, right? Like I guess, and I think I heard you and Matt were talking about it a little bit, right? Talking about, artist's decision to have platinum tickets and all that stuff.
The dad wanted it. Dave Grisman wanted it, but Sam was like, nah, I'm good on it. So there's your generational gap there. I guess. A little bit. So are you psyched for, I mean, I know you're psyched for the tour coming up, but we got Garcia's, and this place, the videos I've seen, it just looks like the most incredibly intimate venue.
I'm really excited to see that room in Chicago. I'm excited for a couple of reasons. I'm really excited to get back to Chicago with God Street. Really excited to work with Shapiro in a new venue. I mean, he's one of the guys that's got a direct connection to that late 90s, early 2000s sort of carrying, talk about passing of a torch, right? With Wetlands and all of that. And he just, he knows how to put together a venue and he does it from a perspective that not only focuses on himself and revenue and making the most of it, but understands what fans like when they go see shows and understands how bands like to feel when they're in a venue. So it's definitely looking forward to that. Absolutely.
Right. He is Bill Graham on steroids. Totally took it to the next level. And it's because of the internet and everything that happened with technology over the years. If Bill Graham still was alive today, he would own most of the country. He'd probably be richer than Microsoft.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that. And I think you're right. Like he's Bill Graham on steroids. And I think the steroids in this instance are the fact that he's ahead and he's a fan and he knows what he liked.
Good book. He did a good book. He had somebody write it with him, but it was very interesting to that he gave you a little peek. I know it's rosy colored, because we all have to be rosy colored when we're promoting ourselves.
But yeah, now we're definitely looking forward to that. And then, the 3 East Coast shows, always fun to be back out here on the East Coast. I'm a little, you know, from a selfish standpoint, ending the run in Asbury is awesome because I live, oddly enough, I ended up living in Maniloking. I live in Maniloking, New Jersey, which, quick crazy story. So I met my wife. I was introduced to my wife in 2015, and through a mutual friend, ends up that she's from Northern New Jersey. She was a God Street Wine fan in the 90s and went to college in Boulder. And so while we were, you know, when we first were introduced and we were emailing back and forth, I sent her a photo that I took from the stage at the Fox Theater in Boulder from 1993 and was like, would you have been at this show? And sent it back to me with an arrow pointing to herself standing there in the audience.
Nice. I love it.
And it ends up, she had a house in Maniloking. And so we got together, we got married, and here I am living in Maniloking. It's a crazy little world.
I'm glad that I got to catch that at Atlantis. I feel like that's one of those ones that you're probably not going to get that often because it takes up a lot of real estate.
It does. You know, I hope that the guys continue to dig into some of those you know, composed pieces that Lowe wrote. I mean, Maniloking, you know, obviously that's the one that everybody wanted, but like things, you know, like Stupid Hat and
I love Stupid Hat. Stupid Hat is the greatest song ever.
It is, and that's a regular. Like that's played every run. But then there's things, you know, like Crazy Iranian that I always loved, and Dinner Guest, which is not made its way back out, which that was the one that I really, really loved, and I've been sort of needling Lowe and hoping that he gets the guys to start working on that one. So yeah, but it's good stuff. And again, and I also heard Matt mention this. I think Matt and I are definitely both on the same page with, as much as both of us love what God Street is doing right now, I think both of us are also really kind of itching to get them back into their jam roots, like, and really just
say, how do you navigate back to the pulse of the community now? Is Disco Biscuits does no comma sets, you know. Fish played how many 30+ minute jams this tour? That's like what people are looking for. I don't necessarily want that from God Street, but
I don't need 35-minute songs. And I agree. I've always been a firm believer that quality over quantity is better. Like just because a jam is
Riding West to like 17 minutes, that's perfect. You have enough to let them all go and find their way. And
I agree. And I think like those are the things, like they've got that inside of them. And no one, Matt, me, anybody's gonna push them to keep doing or to do more of that. But I think the more they play together and the more comfortable they become with their old catalog, and it's just, and it's already started. It just sort of naturally is going to evolve into that's what they are at heart. I mean, those guys, and there's such an improvisational jazz background in so many of them that it's going to come out eventually, you know, in different ways. But that being said, I also do think that going back to the 90s, one of the things that people really enjoyed about God Street Wine, and one of the things I think that keeps people coming back, is that there was and there is always a really well-written song underneath all of it. And so
they are lyrics. It's the lyrics, man. So many people write so many dumb lyrics these days, and I'm like, it doesn't have to be Steely Dan, over the top, pretentious or anything, but interesting. Make me listen to it 10 times in order to even get a picture of what's going on, as opposed to one time you give me the parable, you know, without the story. I don't want just the parable. I want the story.
Yeah, I get it. I agree. Like interesting, relatable. Like I want to be able to think, you know, some of the people that are out in the world right now. Jason Isbell is one that rings true to that. Like Sturgill, same thing. Like lyrically, just, you know, so wonderfully written, but also the message is attainable and relatable. And yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah. We don't need all the deals. We need more, you know, like bird songs, maybe. All right. Anything you want to throw out before we wrap up?
I just know, I mean, I think for anybody who's watching again, I just would say thank you for all the support over the years from both the God Street front, the MS4MS front. And again, if anybody's interested in finding out what we do throughout the year, what kind of events we run and hold, or if they just want to donate, ms4ms.org.
We'll put the links down in the show notes when it gets
out
there.
And other than that, I just hope everyone, if it comes out in September, I'm looking forward to it. You know, again, that's like another piece to this whole thing that I really enjoy, you know, like seeing all these familiar faces, people I haven't seen in a year or whatever. So that's the other link, is the Linktree/God Street line for all the info and tickets and all that fun stuff.
There we go. I'm going to have to get you to come on live with me and T one night when we do the not interview thing, the co-host, and I'll throw you a couple stories and we just come on and talk about life in the music verse for an hour.
Oh man, I'd love that. And you know, anytime you guys want to have me on, I'm a fan and would always be willing to come on and chat. And I think with, you know, again, give this guy a plug too, with the Iris book that's out there, Sharing the Groove. There's a lot of stories to share and a lot of memories that it's funny when you read that book. The memories are fuzzy because some people have very different recollections of the same exact moment.
I hear you. I'm going to do, before Billy String's second show in Baltimore on November 1st, I'm doing a live interview with him at the 8x10 before the show from 3 to 5. So that's going to be fantastic. Hopefully we're going to get it all live streamed. You never realize how many people you have to deal with in order to make something happen until you start diving in.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. Make sure, if you're watching this, you leave a comment, like, subscribe, and thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man. This was fun.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.